There is this quick connector from the turbocharger to the cylinder head, and if you don't have a proper tools, you can make one like I just did. It's a piece of metal. I cut it to probably 1 inch length. Open the one end like that, so it's a little bit more flat. Then you open this quick connector here. I don't know if you can see it, but there are 4 clips actually holding the pipe in there. I'm gonna slide this thing in. That's why it's flat on this side. So I can push it on it. And then I'm gonna open the thing up with my 2 tiny screwdrivers here. Try to wiggle the pipe out. And it works like this. You see? No fancy tools. You can make one like that. It's not a biggie. So now you will see better. You see those little tabs here? It's 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. So you have to basically push on them, on all 4 of them, and it actually holds the pipe in there because of this system here. So it's easy. Okay, I got to the point where everything is removed. Actually, to the right side there is a node. You have to remove the turbocharger before you get to these 3 low nuts, manifold nuts. It's almost impossible to get there without removing the turbocharger. And now I'm working on removing the timing chain and the water pump. First, when I saw this secondary chain flapping around here on top, on the right hand side of the motor, I thought that the tensioner is gone, it's bad. But actually it's upside down, so the tension is actually put on the bottom of the chain compared to the left side of the engine. The tensioner is putting the tension on top of the chain. So this one is on top, that's the left hand side of the motor, and this one on the bottom. And it looks like this tensioner is working well. To remove the exhaust and intake sprockets, you use Taurus T55. You have to use something like this. It doesn't have to be Lyle, but this is Lyle 37200, and it's for 3.5 and 3.7 engines. You put it on those flat spots on the intake and the exhaust, and it drops down pretty easy, and you can remove those 2 sprockets. Not a big deal, no sweat. And then Lyle set comes with this locking tool for the secondary chain tensioner, but I didn't find any use for this. I tried multiple times, different positions. So what I'm gonna do to remove the chain, the secondary chain, I'm gonna remove the tensioner, loosening up those 2 bolts on top, 1 and 2, and then once I remove those 2 bolts, I'm gonna just simply pull everything out. That should work. Forgot to mention, when you take everything apart, then you have to put the engine in the basic TDC position. I did not, because I'm gonna remove these camshafts before taking the head off anyway. There is one thing to remember: they are marked, so every single piece is marked down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and the letter R with a arrow pointing to the front of the engine. So make sure you're gonna put those things back together in the same position. And to loosen these bolts, I give it 1/4 of the turn at a time, same as the tightening sequence, and once they are pretty loose, then you can take them off. I mark down these guys so I can just put it in the same position like before. And to remove the cylinder head, I use the same thing. Loosen up the bolt 1/4 of the turn at a time in the crisscross pattern. And don't forget about this small guy here. It's 8mm bolt. You can loosen it up all the way as the first guy. And this is the cylinder head. This is valve number 4. 5 and 6. Yeah, those injectors, they look pretty nasty. Right there. Right there. I think the world is upside down, isn't it? Cylinder number 4. 5. And 6. Here in the middle, where there is this cooling pipe or pipe for coolant, there are signs of coolant leak. It's all green. The coolant is green, so that makes sense. Next, I'm gonna inspect the water pump. So once those bolts are out, I'm gonna use this baby pry bar to get the water pump off. And voila! Do you guys see? The whole thing, it's damaged. There is no water pump anymore. Right? It's broken to pieces. So the coolant gets into the passage, ends up here in the hole, and then ends up here in this weeping hole. So everything is wet. All this part of the block is wet. So that's how we know that something is going on there. So when I inspect just by visual the water pump, you could see a gasket. Yeah, right there. So this gasket is bad. The gasket is going bad. And it has a play. So I can maybe hear it too. There's a play up and down, and left and right, so each way. It's turning pretty hard though. At one point, when you change the directions, yeah, the bearing is definitely bad, and this might be the problem. Now I cannot turn it at all. Why they couldn't move it by hand? Because the water pump went so bad, the bearing of the water pump actually went so bad that it stopped. It prevented the engine from turning. I cannot turn it by hand right now. So imagine there is a chain and all this mechanism on. You won't be able to turn it. It was just coincidence that I did. And the resistance I measured, it was 55 foot-pounds to turn the engine over. I believe the most of it came out of the water pump. I'm gonna measure the torque, let's say 40 foot-pounds. Still need more. 45. 43. 44 foot-pounds. So it used to be 55 foot-pounds and now it's 44. 11 foot-pounds less with the disassembled system, disassembled timing chain and the water pump, just pistons. Still too much. I bet nobody wanted to see how I take the oil pan off like a bolt by bolt. Gonna try to use the lamp so you can see what is inside. There is something, definitely. There's like a one big shaving, metal shaving right there. Another little piece there. And there is, on the other side, there is another one. Let's go fishing. And there is not too much in there actually. So let's clear this magnet and try it again. There is a big one right there. I cannot reach it with the magnet. It's pretty big actually. And that's pretty much it. 8 13mm bolts. And voila! Welcome inside of the engine.
To je trošku, no. Skús tú kluku utrieť, jak to vyzerá. No, kluka nevyzerá zle. No. Ešte podľa to sa bude dať zaleštiť vláno. Nechytám to. Ako je vidieť, že trošku dostala. A už myslím, že tu máš dva šrouby z boku, aj tam, aj tam. Vytiahnem si ich. Tlač ich k sebe smerom. Hýb dopredu, dozadu a ťahaj hore. No, musíš to tak rozkývať a potom to povolí. by mali byť. Vidíš, tu máš thrust bearing. Toto je to ložisko. Vyzerá dobre takúto ládu, pokiaľ išlo bez oleja. No.
Tak a tu ten motor má 232 000 km zase.
Hej.
So this is front of the engine. Bearing number 1. There is a mark. 2, 3, and 4. What I've done here is I took the flywheel off and this special wheel for the crankshaft position sensor. I'm gonna remove the back plate here because I'm gonna change this back seal as well. So there are a couple 8mm bolts, and I'm gonna remove this crankshaft position sensor as well, so I will not damage it. And then I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna remove all these crankshaft bearings. So as I dropped the flywheel, I found something very interesting in this area here. I was like, what the heck is that? What do you mean is this? Put some comments below. It has some teeth and a tail. Well, let me know. I got all those brackets for the main bearings out, but I forgot about a oil pump, so I'm gonna remove the oil pump. There are a couple 8mm bolts here and there. You have to remove this sprocket first. Oval on the front, circle on the back. And it's time to remove the crankshaft. So the whole engine is disassembled. Pistons, crankshaft, oil pump, bearings, cylinder heads, everything on it, all besides the valves. But I'm gonna inspect everything, and according to results of this inspection, I will make a decision what to do with this engine actually. Let's look at the bearings. Well, let's start on number 4. So this is number 4, and that doesn't look too bad. Like the bottom one, and this is the top one. It's still dirty from oil, but anyway. Number 3, that has some signs of heavy work on the bottom, and the top is not too bad. Number 2, yeah, little signs of work there too on the bottom, and the top, it's not too bad. But the number 1, the bottom and the top are pretty much chewed up, so you can see those little parts, see there? So this bearing is shot, like totally shot, very bad. And the top piece, same way. It looks like it wasn't getting any oil, because this is too bad. So, but this is a heavy machine work here. Yeah, the question would be how it affected the crank, but I believe this is a pretty solid material. I believe this crank should be fine. I'm gonna clean it and inspect it. Here it comes to cylinder inspection, visual inspection. Looks like there are some signs of scoring on number 1. Probably the same condition on number 2. Especially side to side. Number 3 is the same way. Side to side. Number 4 it's like a brother and sister, all the same. Cylinder number 5. Cylinder number 6.